G'day folks, welcome back to Stuff and Such. Thought I'd give you a quick update with what we're dealing with the wood chipper so far. I don't have too much information to give you guys. I've been in contact with Woodland manufacturing, and they seem quite eager to get to the bottom of the problem, and quite they seem to believe that there is a problem, which is good. I heard actually from the owner himself, which I thought was interesting. Sorry for all the sniffles, it's cold out. He claims it's according to what I'm having issues with. He never had any issues with that at all, and it should be doing way more in its capacity, and it was designed to do way more in that capacity. So stop it. So they brought up the PTO shaft size that I was brought up myself. So they brought that up to an engineers in a meeting they had, and they seemed to, the engineers were adamant that there shouldn't be an issue with them in that regard. They shouldn't be undersized. But anyways, they sent me along the stump grinding PTO shaft to give a whirl. And it comes with a slip shaft, or slip clutch rather. And also it's a larger series yoke, which I found quite interesting. So this is the one they ship with it. Okay, stop. This is the one they ship with it. And this is a 4 series yoke. I'll come over a little closer to the camera. So that's the 4 series. Put that down there. And it has just a regular shear pin or shear bolt in the other end. And now I'm currently on about mid-20s of them bolts, because I'm trying to actually work the machine to use it. So I bought it because I desperately need it for the farm. So the shaft that they sent with it, it comes with a 5 series yoke. So you can see the details on just a standard 5 series, and you can see it's hard to get a good representation of what. So anyways, it's just bigger. It looks worse in the video because it's closer to the camera and I can't get it any closer. So it is definitely bigger, which I like, and way more robust. You can see the size of the ears on them compared to the ear sizes in there. So it's just a more robust expectation of design. So I don't know if that'll. I can't say that that'll solve the problem, but what I can say is it'll make the problem less annoying. Whether it'll still be jamming wood, I don't know. I haven't run it yet. I just hooked it up. However, I wanted to go over a bit on the hydraulic side. I've been a bit wrong and I've been a bit right, and I've been a bit learned on stuff. So I added a secondary controlling valve on the output side, and it does work a bit, but what I'm finding is that when the motor gets, and I put a gauge over here, when the motor gets about 1500 psi, the motor will start to bypass enough, and I don't know if bypass is the right word, but leak, or it's not a positive displacement. So what I mean is that for every ounce of fluid that goes in, it doesn't mean it turns an ounce in displacement. So what my point is that while I might have the right flow going through the system to make a nice controlled speed, so the flow speed is actually correct, and this thing seems to be working right. The amount of fluid that can bypass the vanes or the whatever it is, pistons inside this thing, is enough that it won't allow the hydraulic motor to turn. I don't know if I explained that very clear, but it's clear in my head. So what I did is I locked up the motor with wood, like feeding it in, and the roller will stop because it's receiving enough resistance. I then popped the hose off the top of the valve and then noted that hydraulic fluid was still coming through. Now I imagine that's probably how it's relatively designed to work in the motor part of things. So I can't really say that the motor's defective. I don't really know what to say about it, other than that's the information I have. So that's the reason the roller stops. So if Woodland wants that information, there it is. The reason the roller stops is because there's enough bypassing flow through the motor that the hydraulic pressure compensating valve is actually flowing its flow, but it's going through the motor and out the return and not actually turning the roller. The hydraulic pump is working fine. I can deadhead it. It goes up to 2,500 psi, sometimes 3,000, depending what I have the pressure relief set at. I don't quite know what to do. I have one further idea. Oh yeah, I should touch on this before I forget. I did try the idea of knocking out half the number of blades in the flywheel. It made a little difference, but nothing worth doing, so don't waste your time on that. I was somewhere in my head, but then I got distracted. I don't know if it's possible to really have a good control with a hydraulic motor directly feeding at that speed. I think you're trying to get down to too low of a RPM. So it needs to run through a gearbox to get low enough. The one next thing I'm going to try, and I kind of have a semi-green light from Woodland, but it's not recommended to anyone beyond myself yet. So don't do it, I guess, until you confirm with them, or until I report back to you it works or doesn't. So I'm kind of considering, let's go back to the start. I noticed that the roller will roll better and won't stop when it's crispy cold out, like -10, which obviously means the viscosity of the hydraulic oil is improving things, and I kind of wondered if it was pressure related. But my tests over here indicate it's not pressure, it's actually the ability to bypass and flow through the motor. So what I'm thinking is if I put an AW68 or 62 hydraulic oil, I have a pail of it. If I run that, perhaps I can kind of replicate a thicker viscosity oil at lower temperatures, but at a higher temperature, and get better results. So that's kind of where I'm at now. There's a few things I find a little frustrating, but I don't know what to do about them. And that's the inadequate control on the feed side. I've been trying to find an idea, trying to find a solution. It's getting kind of expensive, and I'm getting sick of spending money and time on it. So I don't know if they're eager to consider it a problem, the current design, or not. Oh yeah, I will mention, if you notice in a couple videos back where it was showing the flywheel grabbing and pulling the roller ahead, especially when the butt of the log goes through, adding that valve fixed that. But it's not, you can't really control with this valve because, how to explain this? So we talked about how the motor bypasses. So I can turn it down over here and it'll start to, it'll slow it down to the right temperature or right speed, RPM. But then, because it's bypassing internally in the hydraulic spool, fluid will then become equalized on both sides of the hydraulic motor, and then it has no power to turn, and it slows right down to nothing because the PSI differential on each side of the motor has now equalized, and the bypassing flow can basically just go through the motor opposed to turn the motor. But definitely it certainly did help control. So what I try to do is set this slightly faster than this. And what that does is that it feeds with that thing, but it brakes with this thing. So it can't shove fluid forward, if that makes sense. So it sort of works, but it's also doesn't. It's complicated. It kind of feels like the main issue I'm running into, the main complication of why I can't do what I want to do, is because this thing is bypassing fluid, and I don't know what the specs on that, or what it's acceptable, and it could just be that's the way they're made from the factory, that particular thing, so there's nothing I can do about it besides replace it. Maybe if it had a bigger one where it required more fluid to actually turn it at a low RPM as well, that might do something. But yeah, so like I maybe if you went to like a 15 or 20 gallon per minute type hydraulic pump or hydraulic motor, because the displacement's larger, you would have more control by being able to turn up your flow to allow for your internal, but that's kind of way out of my hands, and likely way out of my department in the engineering side of things. Yeah, that brings you up to sort of speed where we're at. Hopefully this helps something, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Gotta dig another chunk of wood out of it. Anyways, bye for now.